without further ado, I would be honored to introduce our special guest. Her name is Miss Christina Koch. She attended North Carolina State University and was selected to be an astronaut in 2013 by NASA. Raise your hand if you know what NASA is. Ooh, awesome. I think we have some future astronauts in this room. And she set the record for the longest female spacewalk. I don't want to steal the rest of her thunder, so without further ado, let's all give a round of applause for Miss Christina Koch. Ooh, Christina, you might be on mute. Yep, I think.
Yep, thank you. Thanks to everyone. I hope you can hear me now, and thank you to Courtney. Great introduction, and it's so awesome to be with you all today. I know that I'm not looking too much like an astronaut today. It's kind of hard when I'm not floating in space, but you know how it is. Not everyone looks like what they seem, and we can all be anything we want to be, no matter what we look like. So again, my name is Christina, and I am a NASA astronaut, and I'm going to share with you all today a little bit about my journey of how I became an astronaut, and then also what it was like to be in space for almost a whole year. So with that, let me get to showing you guys some cool pictures. All right, let's get started. This is just a little intro picture of me with different visions and keeping the dream alive in different stages of my life. So that's a theme that I want to share with you all today. When I was young, what inspired me was looking up at the night sky. Now, I know sometimes if you're living in a big city, it's not always easy to see those stars at night. But for me, I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, and I used to love in my backyard looking up at the sky and thinking about how big the universe was and my place in it. And that's where I first found my passion for space. Also, when I was a little girl, I had all kinds of posters. If you can see the poster of the space shuttle in my room, because I just thought space was so cool. And like I said, even when I was a little girl, I used to cut pictures out of magazines of space, of Antarctica, and places that really just inspired me. So one thing you can do is think about, when you look out at the world, what are some things that you see that inspire you and make you excited? What posters do you have up on your wall, or what things do you like to look at on the phone if you're on the internet? Now, like I said, I grew up in a small town, so even though I loved science and everything, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I knew eventually I wanted to be an astronaut. But I wasn't sure what exactly that would look like along the way. I thought maybe I wanted to be an engineer, but there were no engineers around me that I ever saw, so I didn't really know what that was like either. So I went to space camp, which is a camp kind of like some of the camps you guys might be at this week, where I got to learn all about space and what it was like to become an astronaut and how to become an astronaut. Now, if camp is something you can't go to, you can make your own space camp or your own camp of whatever you love, whether it's music or sports or a different hobby. And you can read about it online, you can ask your teacher about things, and you can make your own camp to learn about whatever you love. Now, after I went to college, I studied different science and engineering. I got my dream job at NASA. Just like you guys know all about NASA, there's lots of different things you can do at NASA, not just being an astronaut. You can also be a scientist or an engineer at NASA and still get to study space. Now, something else I did along the way was something called rock climbing. Now, how many of you all have ever done something that scared you, or have something out there that scares you a little bit that might intimidate you, but you might do it anyway, something you're nervous about, but you're brave and you do it anyway? Well, for me, that was rock climbing. It was a hobby that I thought sounded so cool, but I was a little bit afraid to learn how to do it. But I got together with some friends and we learned how to do it, and it became a great hobby that taught me how to go after the things that scared me. Now, even though I was working at NASA, when I was a little girl, I also have posters of Antarctica up in my room because it was like a new place to explore. And I was so lucky that I actually got a job that I went for in Antarctica. And so this is a picture of me working in that awesome place. Now, a couple years after that, my true dream came true, and I applied to be an astronaut, and I found myself in this group of people. This is the astronaut class of 2013 that I was a part of, and we got to fly in an airplane that simulated having no gravity, just like we would experience one day in space. I also had to do a lot of different trainings. Now, throughout these trainings, things like learning to fly a jet, which I had no idea how to do, learning how to do a spacewalk, which we got to learn how to do in a gigantic pool to pretend like it was no gravity. There's me in a spacesuit, more about that later. And also we got to learn about something called the International Space Station. Raise your hand if you've heard of the space station. Anyone? So you've heard of NASA. Well, NASA made partners with a lot of different other countries all around the world, and we built a space station that actually is up in the sky, 250 miles in the sky, that actually rotates and orbits around the Earth. And it's up there all the time. And so I got to learn all about that. So after a couple years of working really, really hard and training about how to be an astronaut, I finally got my flight assignment. And what that meant was I got to learn more about how to be an astronaut on the space station.